Hey, what's up to everybody out there? Welcome to another edition of the Round Table Talk, and I'm your host, Seek Money. And in today's episode, we are back in Coconut Grove. We're here to visit the Barnacle Historical State Park. Remember, we did a video a few years back highlighting Coconut Grove, and we walked the Coconut Grove area, and we was going to do a video inside of the Barnacle, but apparently they was closed because they have certain hours. And right now we're gonna go look at we're gonna come up here for a second. We're gonna go look at what the Barnacle says. The Barnacle is the oldest home in Dade County still standing on its original site. It was built in 1891 by Ralph Middleton Monroe, one of the Coconut Grove's most prominent pioneers. He first visited South Florida in 1877 and moved to this area in 1881. Due to his wife's illness, she died here later that year. In 1886, Commodore Monroe purchased 40 acres of bayfront land, including this 5-acre site. He built the boathouse in 1887 and lived on its upper floor until the main house was completed in 1894. He married Miss Jessie Worth. They had 2 children, Patty and Worth, who were brought up here. This historical site and the original house with its additions were donated to the state of Florida by the Monroe family in 1973. And this is, I guess, where they be having events at and stuff. Now we're gonna go take a walk. So now you get an understanding of why this is a historical. But most historical state parks, the park is open Friday through Wednesday from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. Closed Thursday, Christmas Day, and New Year's Day. For tours, Friday through Wednesday, 10 a.m., 11 a.m., 1 p.m., and 2:30. And $3 and up, museum admission. $1 ages 6 to 12, ages 5 and under 3. It's $2 to get in. Let me get out my $2. Oh, I have my $2. And they had a little podium here that shows you the information, but this is one of the informations. But I already gave you. Welcome to the real Florida. For your enjoyment and protection, park rules are enforced. They do have dog scoopers. Now, this is a trail. Now, these are basically little side notes that you'll see throughout the park. They had little stands that actually had information on it the last time I visited. But as of that, it is, I guess they took the stands out and they have these little foldable things. These are probably nice because with weather conditions, the little stands that they had built in probably got knocked down. And so these are like, when the park closed, you can fold them up and put them back into the ranger station. And that right there, if you look back, that's the vehicle entrance for the park rangers. This park doesn't have parking, but there is parking all around Coconut Grove, as I told you in the previous video. There's parking all around at Coconut Grove. Now, since this is a state park, it is a $2 admission fee. Most parks, does have an admission fee, but for pedestrians, they don't normally have a admission fee for pedestrians. They normally have an admission fee for like cars and stuff if you go to certain parks. This is like a little rest area of the bay. We got all of that. Basically, this was the home of Ralph Middleton. I believe his family is still here. When I did visit it, the house. And I went inside the house. I don't think we're going to be able to go inside the house this time. I actually did a tour of the house, and I actually recorded the tour of the house, but it never, I don't know if right there around the time I was producing my show or not, but I know I did, record. Okay. Let me do I got my $2. morning. All right. The ranger station is that way. We probably won't get a look at the ranger station. But the ranger station, I believe there's a gift shop, if I'm not mistaken, where you can probably buy. Well, the ranger station also is where you're supposed to go and purchase your ticket for the tour of the house. This is the house that was later built. This is back area. You can also do parties here and events here if you want to have a private party. Apparently they're already doing a tour of the house because I hear somebody inside the house, so they're doing it. Yes, you can see this is probably the wheelchair accessible for anybody who wants to tour the house. The only thing is you can't tour the upper part of the house. This is the entrance right here. Well, one of the entrances you probably enter, but this is the house where he lived at with Jesse Worth. And remember his wife. If you remember the entrance of the house, that's where you go in and see the tour. This is most of the house. Now, if you remember back in the video, the first wife that he had, she died, and I believe she was the one that was buried near the Coconut Grove Library. Go back to my video when I visited. This is well to go over. Come back to it. Go back to my video when I did in history in South Florida and hot spots in South Florida, where we did the Coconut Grove. When we did a tour of Coconut Grove, and you see there's a daddy, or no, I'm sorry, a mother here with her kid, where they had buried his wife. I don't believe that was his second wife. I believe that was his first wife that got buried. I don't remember. I'm going to be probably walking over there, but I won't be doing a video over there. This land was a lot much bigger than what it is because, remember he purchased acres and acres of this land. But due to the rising population in Miami and here in Coconut Grove, a lot of this land got sold off, and this was regular land that has been here for I have not been here in God knows years. So here is, some of these trees and stuff are damaged due to weathers and hurricane that have came by. This is a pavilion where you can actually come and you can probably rent out here, have a little party. That's one of the boats. I think that's a boat too, because if you remember, Ralph Monroe was a boat designer, and this is his boathouse. Boathouse old and new. I'm going to tell you. Constructed of the winter of 1886 to 1887, the old boathouse was the first building on the Coconut Grove shoreline. With living quarters upstairs and workshop downstairs, it served as Ralph Monroe's first home, office, guest house, and social center on Biscayne Bay. For several years, it was headquarters for the Biscayne Bay Yacht Club. When the first boathouse was destroyed during the Great Miami Hurricane of 1926, Monroe began rebuilding within weeks of the devastating storm. He designed his new boathouse with extra bracing, guy wires, and breakaway walls for better hurricane protection. These and other modifications protected the building during several subsequent gales. Below is a picture. In 1992, Hurricane Andrew broke out front and rear walls just as Monroe had planned, and the bathhouse survived. Yes, these are pictures of the bathhouse. And in 1926, it got damaged from the Miami hurricane, and also the hurricane in 1992 kind of destroyed some of it. Upstairs is where he used to live, and downstairs is where Ingrid was one of his name of his boats. If you know, this is how you would put a boat onto the water from here on down this way into the water. This is the iconic Biscayne Bay, where you can see from here. And this used to be at one point, the last time I was here, this was a walking deck onto the sea. I guess they removed it, And this is how, like, if you had a boat, you would crank up the boat until here. They'd have a sign where it's going to show you, and then you would line the boat into the water here. See, like here, this is a walking dock to get to the boats. It was the same right here. This is the one of the entrances to the boatyard. This is where it says Haroldine. I don't know what that means. The last few times I was here, they used to have this where they had where they had like workshops and stuff here for making boats and all of that. And that is it. This is probably one of his boats. I know one of his boats still lies here. I don't know if it was this one or which one, but I know there was a boat here one of the times I was here that they actually had something. And this is Marine Railway. To the Maritime Volunteers and the Barnacle Society, in appreciation for the many hours of research, fundraising, and barred work investing in historically accurate restoration. The Barnacle Historical State Park, 2007 to 2012. I can barely read it because this is really rusting away, so you can barely see what it says. But yeah, this was dedicated. This will probably be the entrance that whoever comes in here, come in. Because last time I here, they did have where there was a man and a son. They was out here and they was doing like work in here. They're probably building boats and stuff like that. And as you can see, this is upstairs where he used to live at, and this is probably one of the boats too up here. There's a boat up here. I'm gonna go take a seat right here for a second to give you an outlook of everything. Like I said, Ralph Middleton Monroe was one of the pioneers of Coconut Grove. Not saying that he created Coconut Grove, but he was one of the pioneers of Coconut Grove. And at that time, this was one of the first houses. This is an outlook of the house from far away. If you can see, that's his second house and his living quarters. And as you know, this is one of his. This is not the original boathouse, but it's a restored boathouse. Remember, the money that you give and you pay to enter these, like when you do the tours are $3 a person, and the enter the park is $2 a person, and the money that you put into that helps keep these parks open, and it helps keeps the restoration of these parks, because a lot of these state parks are basically historical parks, that have been donated by the landowners or family members of the landowners. Remember his kids, Patty and Worth, they donated this. And I believe when I did visited the house, I visited the house twice. The first time I visited by myself. The second time I actually visited with my mom, and they did have pictures of one of the original family members that did visit it, and they come every so often to visit. And when they do, some goers and some tourists that come and visit the house may get a surprise, because I know one time they was doing a tour and they said that they had got a surprise by one of the family members. I think it was the son or the daughter, I'm not for sure. One of the kids, I believe came. I can't tell you now if any of the family members, any of the siblings are still living, but I can tell you there's probably family members that are probably still living to this day that are related to Ralph Middleton Monroe, because even though there are Ralph Monroe and his wife, and both of his wives are deceased, and the kids are probably deceased, there are family members from cousins and uncles and aunties that are generations and generations of families that are still around. Yes, he was a boat maker, and he came down here, and this was his boathouse where he made boats. And it kind of raveled me, like this boathouse is actually small, and it looks like that it wasn't probably big upstairs. Upstairs probably is not what it used to look like back then. I know they probably don't really, like, if you Google it, you probably really don't have pictures of the inside of the boathouse. I know on certain days, if you can, when they're there doing, any, work inside, you can probably see inside of the boathouse, but you can't see the second floor, The second floor now is probably a storage area for the boathouse and for this state park. Like I said, a lot of this area this was larger because as you can see, a lot of these apartment buildings are recently made because they're recently look like they've been, recently built. Maybe not 5, 10 years ago, maybe 15, 20, 30, 40 years ago, but it was recently, meaning that these wasn't 1800 apartments or early 1900. These apartments are probably 1990s and 2000 apartments here, and that's probably got remodeled because a lot of this land was owned by him. So, and remember they gave off the land to the state of Florida. This is one of 3 state parks that are in Miami. Remember, we did a video of 2 of the other state parks. We did one of the historical Oleta River State Park, which is in North Miami, Florida, and not too far from here is the historical Bill Baggs Cape Florida State Park, which is in Key Biscayne. Now, I really don't think that you can see Key Biscayne from here, but we're gonna go back to the area because, to my understanding, we're further south of Key Biscayne. Because Coconut Grove is south of Key Biscayne. Even if you look out into the water, from here you're gonna see a small island or island that has where boaters be docking their boats at to go out, and stuff like that. And you see a lot of boats that are out here that, people come out into the ocean and they dock their boats out into the ocean. There's a little island. Well, you basically can't see nothing from over this way because of all the trees and everything. I'm gonna see if I can try to get over on that end from this side. But yeah, Bill Baggs, Cape Florida, and the Barnacle is not far from each other. You can probably actually ride your boat over from Bill Baggs, probably no more than like 10-15 minutes depending. Yeah, there is. Well, you can see the little island more closer if you go further over, because I did a episode back then when the Coconut Grove episode I did. We did go visit Peacock Park, and we did go on to the little dock, the walking dock that they had where you can walk over by the water, and you do see one of the little islands that sits across from there, so you can go there and see it better. You really can't see much from this area here because the only observation is on the front porch of the boathouse, so you really don't have much to see. And plus you have trees right here that are blocking off most of the view, and those are part of the state park. Those are not trees that can be knocked down because it's historical and stuff, so you can't really knock them down. And everything here except for this right here, this is probably not part of the historical thing. This is just a little pavilion where you can probably rent out. I see the people are coming out from the tours here. They just did their tour. They're doing another tour at 2 o'clock, but I'm not going to be here for the tour, and probably they're going to tell you to forbid recording. When I did it, I secretly recorded going into the house, but they probably tell you for historical purposes. Like a lot of these historical buildings, they probably say video recording is not allowed, so you probably can't record. You can probably take pictures or stuff like that, but you probably can't record. Well, you probably can't take pictures either, because if they tell you can't record, most likely you can't take pictures as well. So last time I did it, I was secretly recording, and the device that I was recording is since long gone. So yes, and this house, when it was built, it only had a first floor. Now, as you know, this house has no air conditioning in it, so they have a little thing at the top right there. If you can see the very top, the little tip of the top, where they had to let open to keep bringing air. Now, they did have a room. Every room that you go in, if you ever was to come out here, take a tour of the house. They have the room where Monroe was sleeping in with his wife. They have the room where the kids were sleeping in. They have a sewing room. They have a lot of rooms. You get to visit the kitchen. Everything is basically how it was back then. And the money that you donate helps keep to restore it, because as you know, any damage to here, because you know South Florida is hurricane bound, and a lot of these buildings, you know, even in category 1 or category 2 hurricanes, you know, Hurricane Andrew was a category 5 hurricane, so you know it did probably a lot of damage to the boathouse and also did a lot of damage to the house. So basically this is one of those places where, you know, the money that you donate, and you know, when you come to visit, well, not really donate, your admission fee, and also even though the admission fees doesn't add up, you know, the state parks department, you know, the Florida State Parks does have money, you know what I'm saying, where they have, you know, to help. And I'm quite sure the family members that have these donate money to help restore their family members, to help restore their families' properties, even though it's been donated to the state parks. Let me take a look at this. This is a location. This pavilion isn't the first building to occupy this exact spot, and it may not be the last. The first was Monroe's blacksmith shop. It can be seen behind the boathouse in several historical photographs taken in the late 1800s. The second was a cottage Monroe built around 1911 for his friends Tom and Ned Hine. The Hine brothers lived there for a while after they sold their property just north of the Barnacle. When the Hine cottage floated away during the Great Miami Hurricane in 1926, it was retrieved and returned to this location. Afterwards, acclaimed yacht designer Nathaniel Hirschoff and his wife Pat spent several winters there. Beginning in 1930s, Monroe's son Worth lived in the cottage with his wife Mary and their 2 young sons before they all moved into the main house. The Hines cottage was badly damaged after a hurricane in 1945 and eventually tore down. The black community gathered by the boathouse for this historical photograph in the late 1800s. The blacksmith shop is visible behind the coconut palms on the left. You can't really see it, but I can see it. The Hines cottage is in the foreground, and the barnacle is in the background of in this photograph from 1930. You can't really see much. The Michael Pavilion was built on this spot soon after. The barnacle became a Florida State Park in 1973. It sheltered a 50-foot sailboat of the same name until Hurricane Andrew destroyed the 102-year-old vessel in 1992. Afterwards, the pavilion was used for the park's many special events and social gatherings. The Michael Pavilion suffered damage during Hurricane Irma in 2017. The building that replaces it will be the fourth to stand in this location. The Michael Pavilion was built to house the Michael A. sketch Ralph Monroe designed in 1890. So this pavilion was built and let's see. This was built in the late 1800s, if I'm not mistaken. This is the third. This was damaged in 2017 by Hurricane Irma. And if they replaces this will be the fourth building that will be here. So actually, yes, this is a historical. It's a pavilion. You can use this pavilion. As you can see that there has been many replacements. This is a replacement. This was recently replaced because of the color. That this color is a little bit lighter than the regular rest of that color is basically lighter than that color, and this was recently replaced because it doesn't have the same color as this, so as well. So as you can see that there are different colors. We're gonna go back this way and we're almost done with our video. We're gonna go to the whale as well. We're gonna give you the whale. Basically, this has to be one of the boats. Like, it was a boat here that was created by him. Like I said, they probably had several boats here that was created by Ralph Monroe, but a lot of the hurricanes that came through, like Hurricane Irma, Hurricane Andrew, Hurricane Katrina, which wasn't a really bad hurricane for us, but it did go through South Florida. It was a bad hurricane for, of course, New Orleans and Louisiana. The community trail. At first, there were no roads either through the hammock or onto the properties. For what? Front doors were to the bay. Residents either sailed where they were going, or rode bikes, or walked across lots on a community trail. A community trail. Only a dozen families lived in Coconut Grove in the late 1800s. People and supplies came by boat because there were no roads. Settlers walked. They bicycled along a community trail that passed through one another's properties to get to different places in town. A route by this bamboo patch that continues across the lawn is the last remnant of that trail. As Miami grew, increasing numbers of tourists found out about the trail and annoyed residents by peeking in windows and carving their names on trees. Monroe posted a sign admonishing passers-by who scratched his bamboo. The sign read, "Simply minded persons are cautioned not to disgrace themselves by marking their names or otherwise committed deprivations," or whatever you want to call it. Because this is one of the trails that led above. From this spot in 1890, you will have seen the Peacock Inn on the left and Dinner Key in the distance on the right. Yes, this was a trail that led to a lot of houses in the areas, and a lot of people used to carve and designate their names into other areas. Private path and premises. Simply minded persons are cautious not to disgrace themselves by marking their names or otherwise committing. That's the sign that he posted here, because people used to come by and carve their names and stuff as they walk. Because this is one of the trails that used to walk from area to area to get to certain areas, to get from one house to another. This is how you used to walk to get to one house to another. And this is tree. Mary Poor Monroe, beloved wife of Worth Monroe, and 40-year resident of the Barnacle, 1904 to 2000. Mary Poor Monroe. Okay. The well in the grove. Ralph Monroe found this excavation or whatever near a grove of exotic fruit trees 4 years before he bought his property in 1886. He concluded that it must be an old dry well. No one really knows who dug the well or why, but history provides clues. And the Homestead Act of 1862 gave U.S. citizens and intended citizens the opportunity to claim 160 acres of government land of a Hampshire. They lived on the land in 5 years and improved it by building a dwelling of cultivating it. It could be a deed after paying a small filing fee. This area was once part of a grant claimed by Edmund Beasley, and it's possible that Beasley dug the well and planted the grove in effect to prove up the grant. Another possibility is that Dr. Horace Porter was responsible for a well and the grave after Edmund died. His wife, widow Ann Beasley, leased the land to Porter, who planned to cultivate, and he even managed to open Coconut Grove Post Office in 1872. Let's go look at the... We're at the end of our 30-minute mark, so we're going to come and do a part 2 to this because we have more to it. This is the Round Table Talk. I am your host, C Money. Stay tuned for part 2 this episode. We still got a lot more to talk. This is the Round Table Talk. I am your host, C Money. See you in a little bit.